I would like to welcome you on the behalf of Woxsen University. So we have some questions and we want to know some views of yours on that. So my first question is, what do you think on xenocentrism plays a negative role in domestic consumer behavior?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here at Woxen University. You have raised a question about a topic that I really like, I enjoy, I am very passionate about it, and I think that consumer sinocentrism, it's a consumer disposition that if it is not worked properly, it can be negative for a country. Especially this concept is present in countries like we can be considering developing countries like India, for example. So because people tend to prefer foreign brands, foreign products that are coming from other countries, particularly developed countries, over the domestic ones. So and this preference is not because of quality, it's not because of price, it is because people tend to feel that the need for a status is better satisfied when they buy foreign products. So even if a national company in India is lowering the prices, it doesn't cause any effect on the people who needs to buy those things who are foreign. So that's why it is very important for the domestic companies to implement strategies that can consider the sinocentrism. For example, let's say an Indian company, in order to improve the perception of status, can claim or can apply for international certifications. A company can claim that they are exporting products to many other countries and they are well received. So with that, they tend to provide the information to consumers that the product is also important and can provide some kind of status to them as well.
Oh, it's a very convincing answer. I just want to ask another one, that in context with cultural awareness, do you think it's possible for business to use xenocentrism marketing strategies without perpetuating stereotypes?
Yes, well, countries like India, I am expecting that the majority of people will be xenocentric, but it doesn't include all of them. That's because it's a little bit dangerous for companies to work based on stereotypes. And the reason is the following: a stereotype is a kind of definition that is the average of a country. For example, I can say Indians are collectivistics, are masculine oriented. Indians are, for example, short-term oriented. But at the end of the day, that's an average, which might not represent exactly consumers. So stereotypes are good if you are talking about a whole group of consumers, but not if you are working with one individual consumer. For example, if I want to define you as a consumer, you might be totally different from the stereotype of the country. So it's very dangerous for companies because stereotypes usually are negative most of the time. Yeah. For example, people tend to think about Mexicans, for example, as lazy people, but not every Mexican is lazy, right? And it's a negative one. Or people say Chinese people, they work like crazy. Yeah, many of them, but not all of them. So we have to be careful on that because every country has different segments, group of consumers that behave in a particular way.
So my next question is, sir, what are your opinion on the xenocentric consumerism in the Indian market, keeping in mind its history? Do you have any example you could provide us?
Yes, this is a very good question. If we go back to history in India, we found that you were colonized somehow by the British.
Yeah.
So by having that experience, many Indian people developed the idea that the better is the foreign. For example, speaking the language. And so that is an indication also that many countries that are xenocentric is because they have been colonized. And some authors have related this with xenocentrism by saying that it's a kind of hangover effect of colonialism. So it's a very interesting definition. And recently, I have read about many Indian companies. One of the companies that grabbed my attention was Tata, and particularly the car, Tata Nano.
Yeah.
And I was reading and studying the situation. What happened? Why a product that was very cheap, affordable, and it wasn't too bad in quality. It was basic car, was not well accepted by the society here, by the consumers, and finally the company decided to stop the production. And I found that the reason was exactly xenocentrism. Why? When people are xenocentric, they look for products that they can show to others.
Yeah.
And the others can recognize that you are a very nice guy, interesting, high society, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, when we have a product that is very cheap, made domestically, it doesn't contribute to satisfy your need for status. So people, what I read is that many families decided not to buy a Tata Nano, but instead to buy a second-hand car from an international brand, Volkswagen, Suzuki, or any other brand available, because if they bought the Tata Nano, it was a clear indication to others that you didn't have enough money to buy a car. Yeah. So people were saying, oh, you are still a poor guy or a very low-class family. With xenocentric people, having the product of low price and basic quality, it doesn't work. So what would be my recommendation for Tata? It would be maybe they can relaunch the product, but with better qualities and not that low the price, because it can be a competitor to other international brands rather than offering a product that is easily affordable for the majority of people. But at the same time, they can make a joint venture, for example, with Volkswagen. And you can claim, okay, Tata Nano has a Volkswagen engine, okay, or maybe we hire Italian designers to design the new model. So who is going to say to you that Italians are not good for the design? So very good. So you can add some things that give the impression or give the information that the product is well recognized also abroad, and that will work better.
Actually, Ratan Tata's motive was actually very good, but the people didn't get his perception, what he wants.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would like to ask another question, sir. To what extent has the implementation of open AI affected the international marketing space?
Well, you're talking about artificial intelligence,
yeah.
right? And artificial intelligence is something that we don't know exactly where we are going with that. International marketing are using artificial intelligence to have a quick and very good idea about what is happening in the world based on previous discovery. I am a little bit critical of artificial intelligence in the sense that artificial intelligence cannot create new knowledge.
Yeah.
It's very good to explain the current knowledge. So, for example, companies can understand what consumers are doing, but they cannot understand why with artificial intelligence. So we still need human intelligence to really find the answers to the whys. Because you can see the people, for example, people are buying milk, and artificial intelligence will tell you right away how much milk are consumed per capita in India and so on and so forth. But if there is any change in the market, artificial intelligence cannot tell me why people are buying milk. So I think that we still have room for human intelligence, if you can put it that way, but it's a good complement. I think that this is new advancing technology. Decades ago, we introduced the computer. That was a big change, and many people were afraid. of being replaced by computers. Some people are afraid today that they will replace by artificial intelligence. For example, if we are going to repeat knowledge, maybe a computer or a robot will do a better job than a professor in front of the students. But if you want to be critical, create new knowledge, and so on, we still will need the professor. And that is happening with companies. I think it's a new tool. We have to use it. We have to be careful how to use it, but it's a new contribution from technology that could allow us to refocus where humans can work better and where technology can replace them.
So if we look from the point of view of innovation, human intelligence is still required.
Absolutely. I want to believe that. I want to believe that. But I believe so because there is nothing like human intelligence yet. We need to discuss things. We need to create knowledge. We need to come out with new ideas. But we can use artificial intelligence to push us to the new frontier.
Yeah. So I have another question, sir. In the current times, there is quite some significance given to ethics, values and morals. What are some values that you think businesses should stick by while developing marketing strategies in terms of ethical consideration?
Wow, that's a very profound question. Ethics is a big issue. Ethics is contextual to the culture. For example, what I have found in my experience is that there are some issues that are unethical here, but they are totally ethical in other countries.
Yeah.
So I think that companies going abroad, they must consider what is ethical in the new market, what is unethical, and they should localize the way that they practice business. For example, in some countries like North America, hiring a relative under your supervision is not acceptable, particularly if you work in the government, for example. But in other countries, in the Middle East, it's totally acceptable because it's a matter of trust.
Yeah.
So something that is unethical in North America is totally ethical in the Middle East. So I think that my view about ethics is we have to understand a local culture. Of course, there is one warning. If you are an international executive coming, let's say, from Canada, Canada has extraterritoriality laws. So it means that every Canadian must behave ethically no matter where the person is in the world. Yeah. So there are some considerations, but ethical things must be considered. People are nowadays are extremely worried about companies being ethical, which include, for example, how responsible are with the environment, how responsible they are with customers, and so on. So I think it's a good thing to adjust our practices to the ethical requirements of different parts of the world.
So it's so satisfying answer, sir. I want to ask, sir, do you think that in a country like India, with so much diversity, it will be easy for the business to adapt all these new developments and trends?
Well, I have been here for 24 hours in India, or a little bit more than that, and I have realized that India is a very complex country in terms of variety, diversity. So not even you have one common language,
yeah,
right? So we have different groups of consumers. I think that with India, it's easy for companies to practice international marketing here. Because even though you are within the country, you have so many different groups of consumers, different states where people are doing things in a different way. Traditions are different, celebrations are different, language is different, different practices that are common. So I think that companies that are working nationally in India, they are almost ready to work anywhere in the world because they are already were born with the need to be flexible in adapting their practices, business practices.
Actually, India is very diverse culture. So each company, if they are working in all the states, they got to know there's something new in each and every state. So, sir, will this company be able to address any cultural backlash or misrepresentations?
I think that companies are always in the process of learning. Big companies make mistakes too. For example, we can examine companies such as Home Depot, a global company from America, which failed in many countries in Latin America and also in South Korea, because the business model that they exported was exactly the American model without adjustment. And they invested money, they opened stores, and they have to close them down after. Other companies such as Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, now made a lot of mistakes in different countries. For example, in Argentina, they were a total failure because they were not able to adapt to the taste of Argentinians. Argentinians don't like to eat chicken too much. And on top of that, they don't like fried meat. They prefer barbecue meat type. So it's a big mistake, but companies from America most of the time think that if something works in America, it will work the same way everywhere, which is not the case of developing countries like India, that they recognize the differences. So they are more willing to adapt. For example, imagine for a minute, in 1995, there was the first McDonald's store or restaurant opened in India. What is the key product of McDonald's? The Big Mac, which is based on meat, beef meat. So could you imagine for a minute if McDonald's would have come to India without adjusting the menu, offering the Big Mac? People would have reacted in a totally angry way, because in India many people don't eat beef for religious reasons. So they adapted that, and they have been successful, and they are everywhere in India nowadays. So we can see that companies need to anticipate to problems, but if they don't, they have to be quick to correct it, because customers are willing to continue buying the product if the company is flexible enough to adaptation.
So thank you so much, sir, for your cooperation and such a brief answer, and you just gave a very detailed answer, so we can get a very good knowledge. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for the invitation, and it is a pleasure for me to be here with you guys.
It's our pleasure to have you on our campus, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.